go ahead and call this meeting to order. Thursday, June 4th, called council meeting, public hearing on the budget. First, let's bow our heads for the invocation. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this beautiful day and the opportunity to live in this city and serve these residents, businesses, and employees. Please guide our work as we work diligently to provide for this the resources needed to operate this wonderful city. We also take the time to express remorse and hope for our communities and our country in this time of need, both with COVID as well as issues stemming from Minneapolis. Please continue to bless this community and those that serve it well. In your name we pray. Amen. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all. Before we get started, I told council this, and Sean and some of the staff, I had a statement I'd like to read on the death of George Floyd. Like everyone, I'm disheartened and angered by the loss of George Floyd's life. I've had words written on a page for a few days now, and no matter how hard I try, none of them seem to be good enough to address the pain that I feel and that our country feels. We cannot and should not grow to be desensitized by the death of George Floyd and too many like him at the hands of any law enforcement agency. We cannot think that this just happens because it's not supposed to happen. We have had instances of tragedies like this in our own communities past, and while we may not be used to it, we are not immune to it. Our country continues to struggle with inequity. Protesting these inequities is the right and duty of all Americans, each and every one of us. We must eliminate injustice and racism wherever it resides and not rest until all of us are treated equally under the law. This battle for equality and justice also requires participation in the democratic process. It requires dialogue and conversation. It requires listening, and it requires hard work. It requires police departments across the country, not just in Minneapolis, to take proactive steps to ensure proper training is in place and that relationships within the community are strengthened and made a priority, which our police department continuously works towards. It requires elected officials, myself included, to do a better job in listening to constituents who are unduly and negatively impacted by the laws and policies we uphold or create. It requires us to ensure that open dialogue exists where the Constitution meets every American on Main Street. I'm proud to represent Fountain Inn. I'm proud to work with great people like our police chief, Michael Hamilton, who put our community first in everything they do and strive to never be complacent. I'm proud to have constituents who help each of us learn and listen, and I'm grateful for a community that always knows how to come together. We are currently working on organizing a unity event for our community within the next 2 weeks, so please stay tuned for that announcement. That's from Mayor G.P. McClear. I felt called to say something over recent events, as well as some requests by some staff members for us to speak up. And I had been working on this over the weekend already, so I felt it was necessary to say something. And I appreciate staff and the police and Chief Hamilton and his staff for all that they do and making sure that our city stays safe. So with that, we're going to head on to the next item on the agenda. It's the public hearing on the proposed budget for fiscal year 2021 beginning July 1st. I guess no one signed up, but this is a public hearing, so we'll open it up if anyone would like to speak on the proposed budget. Who is here? It's just Chris Burkhardt. Hearing none, I guess we will close this public hearing on the budget for fiscal 2021. Moving on to old business, there's a second reading ordinance 2020-002, fiscal 20 budget amendment. Mr. Bell.
Thank you, Mayor. This is second reading of an ordinance to update and amend our fiscal year 2020 budget for the city of Fountain Inn to account for appropriations made by City Council throughout the fiscal year. As mentioned the last couple meetings, when a municipality adopts its annual budget, we are projecting receipts and expenditures, and oftentimes extenuating circumstances make it appropriate to amend that budget ordinance to reflect those deviations. We had some increases in revenue, such as our fire service area taxes, our Lawrence County taxes, Greenville County taxes, and also some of our variance and rezoning fees. Those were all under budgeted, which led to an increase. And on the expense side, we had some items that were under budgeted, such as our payroll consultant fees, our police and fire education incentive pay, and some special events marketing. In addition, we had a website audit performed, which helped us develop our RFP that has been released. And then also the big ticket item purchased this fiscal year were 800 radios. And so with the addition of $115,000 of fund balance, the additional revenue and expenditures totals $405,900 to make our FY 2020 budget balanced. And with that, I recommend council approve this budget ordinance.
This is second reading, correct?
Correct.
Is there a motion to approve on second reading?
So moved.
Mr. Mahoney, is there a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Thompson, any questions, comments?
Just may want to clarify that we did not purchase 800 radios
Correct.
in the minutes, okay? Yeah,
Yes,
Types
sir.
of radio.
type of radio.
800 megahertz
There you go.
radios.
Thanks.
Excuse me.
I was listening.
Everyone's getting a radio.
Oh, we all gonna get ready.
All right. Any other questions or comments? Maybe none. Motion to approve in second has already occurred. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Next item is, I guess technically it's new business on the agenda. First reading, ordinance 2020-003, fiscal 21 budget.
Thank you, Mayor. Members of council, I'd like to run through some of our budget highlights that we have presented for you all. First off, this is a balanced budget as statutorily required. This budget presents no millage increase. This will be levying our 76.1 mills, the same as the last several years. You have an updated fee schedule labeled as Exhibit B. There were no substantive fee increases. Every year we do some cleanup and some slight revisions, but no major increases on anything. On the revenue side, in the general fund, this was an increase just over 6% compared to the adopted FY20 budget. We budgeted for a moderate increase in franchise fees and license and permit fees. We budgeted for a 20% decrease in police fines, and that has been mainly due to COVID-19. And we also increased 19% in our fire service area fees as those continually increase. In sewer, we have just over an 11% increase in revenue due to our residential growth. And in natural gas, we had a slight increase in overall revenues. The big one was a 25% decrease in our service charges, and that was also due to COVID-19. Into this budget handles personnel with a 3% cost of living increase for all personnel in the first full pay period in July. In the general fund, the cost of just the salary increase alone is $175,600, and the total cost of those adjustments in the general fund represents just over $255,000. So that's the salaries and the burden. Across all funds in our departments, the total cost of salary adjustments, which includes new personnel, is $555,000. Compared that to last year, where we had a total personnel cost of $614,000. So in 2 fiscal year budgets, the city will have increased its total personnel costs by $1.1 million. This budget has increased the percentage of dependent healthcare premiums paid by the city. We have kept the education incentive pay for police and fire, with the understanding that our new HR director would help us craft maybe an improved policy, but that is still kept in there. New positions of a planning and development director, an assistant public works director, a crew worker in public works, and an additional detective. As far as capital projects go in the general fund, we are using just over $438,000 of fund balance, but only for capital projects. This would include wayfinding phase 2, mast arms for Maine and Quillen, new city website, door replacement at the activity center, replacement of 2 treadmills at the activity center, computer replacement throughout all of our general fund departments. We're trying to adhere to an annual schedule of replacement of computers, laptops, servers, and things of that nature. Public safety equipment, such as 2 additional police vehicles in addition to a vehicle for the new detective position, and all 3 of those would be equipped. 50 sections of replacement fire hose, MDT printers and scanners for the police department, and building improvements including roof repair for fire station 1 and 2, and entry upgrades for the police department. Over in the natural gas department, we have use just over $1.2 million of reserves, but again for capital items. This includes new service lines, replacement equipment such as an electrofusion machine, a vacuum machine trailer, obsolete regulator replacement, large meter corrector replacement, and large industrial meter replacement. It also includes Fountain Inn High School natural gas infrastructure, a mainline expansion for many new subdivisions, the Clinton Newberry Interconnect project, and also a new Fountain Inn natural gas website. In the sewer department, we are using reserves as well for capital. This is for the continuation of our sewer rehab, the Old Fairview Road project, the Rural Infrastructure Authority grant match, and some new and replacement equipment consisting of a concrete grinder, an easement machine, a sewer camera, and 1 vehicle replacement. And then in the solid waste fund, we have a lease payment borrowing that we will be conducting here soon. Council will be asked to adopt an ordinance at our next meeting. And this would be to pay for a new automated side load garbage truck, as well as a new debris or knuckle boom truck. The hospitality tax, we did have a decrease in revenue due to COVID-19. And in the hospitality tax for our grant applications, it funds the Chamber of Commerce at $15,000, the museum at $15,000, and the Cultural Arts Foundation in Fountain Inn at $75,000. And in our road improvement fund, we have a transfer in from the natural gas department of $50,000. So that would be an additional $50,000 of road improvements compared to the last several fiscal years. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions. I know we have Naomi Reed, our finance director, who did a great job, her and her staff, putting this budget together, and we also have most of our department heads here tonight as well. They can answer any questions.
Is there a motion to approve on first reading fiscal 21 budget?
So moved.
Mr. Thompson, is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Iriberry. Questions, comments?
So Sean, as me and you talked earlier today, we're not gonna follow the salary study. We're not bringing anybody that was, has the education degrees. We're not taking them on up to the mid-range this year. We're not gonna follow the salary study.
In the general fund this year, we did not feel that we had the revenues to support following the kind of the next phase of recommendations in that class and comp.
So my only argument and disagree with, we've got guys been here 1 to 5 years. They got moved to the middle. We hired a new guy tomorrow, he's making the same amount of money as the guy's been here 1 to 5 years. Correct?
I believe so, yeah.
I don't agree with that, because I don't think we're gonna keep our employees going that way. There's no reason for anybody to stay. If they put the time in, they ought to be at least brought up to the halfway between that.
We ran some scenarios, and I mean, of course, that would have been what we would like to have done. We ran several scenarios in doing basically just that. So employees that have been here a certain amount of years would get moved to mid-range, certain amount of years get moved to half in the mid-range, half to the midpoint. And we have a lot of employees that have been here a long time, and it was a pretty insurmountable number. I don't remember what it was. off the top of my head, but it was a pretty substantial increase above and beyond the all funds department's salary adjustment of $555,000. So that, I think if we were to follow some of those guidelines, I mean, I think we'd be looking at probably another $500,000 at least.
I just think we ought to look at those guys that've been here, put the time in, and then you guy walks in and they're making the same amount of money. There ought to be some type of break there.
I believe the recommendation, well, actually, we've just kind of discussed this in bringing on our new HR person. I think she should be challenged with coming up with a pay for performance plan and give them the opportunity to, for those folks that are in that position to potentially get somewhere in between the mid-range and the starting range. Therefore, it would help to avoid that situation where you got people. So I would be looking forward to her, you know, taking that task on and making some recommendations to us. Because I totally agree with you. I've been in that situation.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel good.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah, but I think there's ways to correct that. Probably not this year, but probably next year we can have some thoughts about it.
The only other thing I have is, I'd like to ask or make a motion, I don't know how we do this, to increase the chamber's amount of money we're done, or giving them this year, from 15 to 20,000. Does that need to be a
We just
motion?
need to make a motion to amend.
Well, yeah, alternative, I'm fine entertaining, but I just had a thought on that. If you wanted to, Mr. Thompson, work with, because we can change the budget announced next week and working on identifying where that would come from, and this way we have a proposal to, as opposed to
So is
just
it take a motion tonight, or just work?
I think you work with Sean, I mean, and be happy to bring it up next week too, yeah, but I just think this way we.
Is that correct, David, that we can
Yes.
have, change it from
Yes.
now, but if first reading is passed tonight, and if staff is directed to make that change, that is something we can do for, as presented for second reading.
Because then we can know where it's coming from, and then we.
Okay.
But that would be my preference, but you're, feel free to do
No,
that.
that's fine with me.
I would just like to have some understanding of where that increase is going to be distributed. What they're going to use it for.
Well, to me, they need to be able to do more advertising, promote our downtown without having to fundraise to make their pay.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what I'd like to hear from the chamber.
Yeah, and that's what the money needs to be used for to promote our downtown. And per her event, she brings more people, the chamber brings more people to our downtown area than anything else we're giving money to throughout the year. And that building's used an awful lot for city events and open for things the city's using for. So I know we're giving them free rent, but I mean, they can use the money to actually do their jobs instead of fundraising to do half their job.
I get it.
That's it.
Yeah. So we'll work on that for a proposal for a second. We can be more concrete on where it's coming from. Is that okay with everybody else too? Okay. Any other comments, questions on this budget? I just want to thank Naomi and her staff.
Yes.
And Sean,
Mhm.
for your hard work. I think the budget process, so far, it's not over yet technically, but has been, easy for us newer council members to go through. I hope it's been just as easy or easier for those who have more tenure. It's a clear budget, it clearly puts what we're doing with the citizens' money, and I think we're investing it wisely, in this budget and conservatively and responsibly.
I really like this. Once we approve this, will we post this on the website somewhere?
The
Very
current-
nice
the
job
current
putting this
fiscal year
together.
one.
This explains it quite eloquently, I think, in easy read.
Yeah, actually, I think it was something Naomi and I talked about way back when, it was the budget narrative playing a larger role in presentation.
Yeah, it's
so that
awesome.
It's easy to see what we're doing, so. Anything else? All right, there's a motion and a second for approval on first reading. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it. Approve the first reading. Mr. Bell, do you have anything?
I I only have one item to discuss with council. Today is June 4th, so we have exactly 1 month to July 4th. I don't know if anybody has seen in the news recently, but a lot of the surrounding municipalities have been canceling their 4th of July events that they had planned. Initially, we were considering about still having our 4th of July celebration. I think the concern that staff has is beyond just the social distancing issues with COVID-19, but this past 4th of July celebration was heavily attended to the point where I think it gave even some of us some public safety concerns. I think what our concern would be having a large festival on the 4th of July this year would be that if so many other municipalities have canceled theirs, that those people would be coming here to Fountain Inn. And while normally that's a great problem to have, I think in this climate, I think that could potentially be some really bad PR of us having that large amount of people here in our downtown. So staff would like to suggest that we maybe just have a fireworks show, not have a band or any sort of large gathering like that. But staff is willing to take suggestions or hear from council on what they'd like to do.
It's a really good point. I guess my question is I wonder, I know that there's some churches here that also do the similar events, don't they? Like First Baptist, don't they do a big fireworks show? They don't do it anymore? Just wondering how they plan to address that if they would.
We're starting the summer music tomorrow night, right?
We are, and I think we're gonna have to see how that goes. I mean, we're not anticipating just, a tremendous more amounts of people, but, there's a lot of events that have been canceled and there could end up being a lot of people. We may have to evaluate that.
Who's going to enforce those guidelines? I read the guidelines that came out about blankets and chairs and so forth. Who's responsible for it? Will we have more than one police officer there?
I believe we only have one officer there, yeah.
We can make it we have one.
I don't see one officer controlling all that, do you?
I don't know if it's within our purview to enforce all of those.
Oh, we just put the guidelines out. And let them
I think that's all we can do.
I think if there's a problem, if there, one of my concerns when talking to them was, I suggested doing the blankets to that's pretty easy and simple, but also the road access, because people tend to stand and walk, which is fine normally. But the concern is you don't want to move from the farmer's market to use the restroom in the chamber building and have to walk by 100 people and squeeze your way through. So keeping that kind of free might be the most
I don't think you can keep that road open if you guys need people there, they can't all get in the grass.
Right, yeah, we'll see how that's gonna be the hardest one to sort of, we didn't say, I don't think staff's gonna shut it down per se like that, but just that's gonna be the problem area most likely, for social distancing.
Is there a way to block off from this, there's only 50 people here right now, and when one leaves, you come in? I mean.
Oh, gosh, that'd be awful.
You'd have a.
And I do believe some recent guidelines came out now that have expanded that gathering number to 250, but with still social distancing of 6 feet. So I don't know exactly what that
And we're not gonna
looks
be the
like.
only community that deals with this, everyone else is starting up
I see
right
this.
after us.
When do we have to make the decision on the 4th of July celebration?
Staff would like to know within the next week or so, and I told,
Let's see how this first
okay, I told him I'd talk to you guys tonight.
Do we have the fireworks?
We pay
Can we
somebody.
get them?
Yeah, we pay somebody to do them, and that deposit has
Just
already been
curious.
paid.
I mean, they're made in China.
This year's 4th of July came in last year, next year will be the rough year.
I wasn't trying to be funny. I'm
I
just
didn't
saying,
realize that's what-
the fireworks distributors are saying this might be an issue for them.
So that would be something to call to see if they have fireworks. It would be, okay, if we don't have any functions but just shoot off fireworks, was still gonna have a whole bunch of people for
You got
that.
more people show up for that than you are music.
I think
Yeah.
the good thing about that would be, compared to an event, is that that's people doing it on their own. It's not a city sanctioned event if there's a liability issue with COVID, which is still a big question mark.
I would
But
think so.
I think people saw, I'm gonna drive down and watch them. I mean, you know,
I would think if we're paying for the fireworks, it's still on us either way we go. It's still a city event.
yeah,
I said, let's see how the music
yeah,
goes.
I agree.
There may not be a lot of people come out for it just because of that. So.
May not be. Chief, would you do us a favor and maybe just alert your folks to help that one person that's gonna be down here? Appreciate it.
Yeah, we can tackle that again next week
Yeah.
at our meeting. But right around then is when we're gonna have to make a decision. Thank you, Mayor. That's all.
Anything else? We go to the order. All right. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Thank you, Mahoney. And is there a second? Second. Thank you, Mr. Blackstone. All in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.
Awesome. 26 minutes.
That's gotta be a record.
That's
Maybe
just
not
about a
quite.
record.